This third video in our transmission repair series addresses the clutch problem on automatic transmissions. A common symptom of this is a delay engaging into gear, with a harsh jolt when it does. We have raised the car on a lift, but this job can be done with a floor jack when used safely. Remove the front left tire. Next, we are going to clear some room to be able to remove the side cover on the transmission. Remove the cotter pin. Now that we have the cotter pin removed, use an 18mm wrench to loosen the nut. Loosen the nut, but do not remove it as shown. Take a pry bar and hold it at the top of the nut you have just loosened. Press down with the pry bar and strike the metal part below the nut as shown. This will loosen the joint. You are going to hit this part, but on the back side. Do not attempt to do this in any other way, as you will damage the ball joint. You may have to use more or less persuasion in this step. Use a pry bar to press down on the lower control arm and move the joint apart. Next, we are going to remove the bolt holding the brake line to have better access to the transmission cover. We have used a ratchet strap to hold the wheel assembly out of the way. We are now going to loosen two bolts holding the subframe. This is going to lower the transmission so we can have easy access to it. Remove both bolts holding the subframe completely. As you will notice, the transmission will drop a few inches. Now we have enough access to remove the side cover on the transmission. Place a container under the cover to catch the transmission fluid. Now we can remove the bolts holding the side cover. Now for the rest of this video, we are going to demonstrate on a transmission that is off the vehicle. The only reason for this is that so you can get a better view of the steps. The transmission does not need to come off. We have the bolts removed already. Use a hammer to gently tap the sides of the cover to loosen it free. Use a pry bar or tool to evenly apply pressure at several corners to ease the cover away. Remove the cover gently. There are metal tubes attached inside the cover that will bend if the cover is forced. The problem is right in front of you. The nut holding the first clutch is loose. Sometimes, in a few cases, the nut completely unscrews and falls down. Without the nut fastened properly, pressure cannot build up inside the transmission correctly and causes the delay engaged into gear. Use the special socket provided to remove the nut. In most cases, you can remove it by hand without any ratchet or air tools. The transmission we are working on is not malfunctioning, so we are using an impact gun. Notice the clutch moving back and forth. This causes delay in pressure. Use a razor blade to scrape off the old gasket. Make sure to catch all the debris so it does not stay in the transmission. A new gasket is provided in the kit along with a new nut. Install the new nut and thread it in by hand first to make sure not to cross-thread it. Use an impact wrench to tighten the nut. Before installing the cover back, make sure none of the old gasket is stuck to it. Clean and prepare the cover for reinstallation. We are almost done. Make sure the metal tubes are lining into the corresponding holes and gently push the cover in. It is important not to rush this process and also not to force the cover too much. If it is not going in, you may have to try a few times. Once it is in, the cover should sit flush with the transmission. We have 12 bolts, 5 long ones and 6 short ones. All of the long ones go on the bottom and all the shorter ones go on the top as shown. Fasten all the bolts with even pressure. Congratulations, you have just rebuilt your transmission.